Algebra 2, Unit 8 Study Guide, Rational Functions. Now let's look at adding and subtracting. So look at number 5. To add rational functions, you need to have a common denominator, just like you would with if you were adding two simple fractions. So we have a common denominator of 5x plus 9. So we can just simply add the numerators. So we say 2 plus x, because we can't combine those terms, and then put it all over our one denominator. After doing that, we just look and see if it will simplify for us, and it won't. The last thing we need to do, though, is to write a domain rule. So over to the side, I'm going to take my denominator and set it equal to 0, and then solve that equation. Because I can't tell at a glance what number would make that expression 0. Oops, I'm going to divide by 5. So I'm just going to work a simple equation. So this equation tells me that x should not equal negative 9/5. If it did, then our denominator would be 0. So that is the exclusion rule that you need to include. Now number 6, again, we're adding two rational functions, but our denominators are not the same. So I'm going to see if either one of those can factor, and my one on the right can factor. It's a trinomial, so I'm looking for two numbers that will multiply to give me 10 and to give. So it looks like 2 and 5. So I'm going to rewrite my first fraction, and then my second one I'll write as x plus 2. And sorry, it's not an x, it's a y. So y plus 2 times y plus 5. So now let's build that common denominator. So from our left rational, we need the term y plus 5. That's the denominator on the left. And on the right, we need a y plus 5 and a y plus 2. So now I'm going to write this all over my common denominator. So y plus 5 times y plus 2. I'm going to adjust this numerator. So I need to multiply by y plus 2. That's what I'm missing. As I do that, I'm going to go ahead and distribute, just to save myself a step. So I have 3y plus 6. Now my second expression has the common denominator, so I don't need to adjust my numerator. Now I can go ahead and I am just going to move over to the right. So I'm going to take my numerator on the left and add it to my numerator on the right. And that is going to be over my common denominator. So then that will give me 4y plus 6 over y plus 2 times y plus 5. Now the only other thing we can do is factor out, I notice, a 2 from the numerator. And we do that just in case what we have left will divide out with our denominator. It will not, but at least we tried. So that is our final answer. We're going to give an exclusion rule. So from our denominator, we can see that we need to exclude negative 2 and negative 5, because those are the values that would make our denominator 0. Let's continue adding and subtracting by looking at number 7. So we have different denominators, so we need to find a common denominator. I notice that my denominators do not need to be factored, so let's just build our common denominator. From our first rational, we need an x minus 3, and from our second one, we need an x plus 2. So our common denominator will simply be x minus 3 times x plus 2. So to adjust our numerators, we have to multiply by what was missing from our denominator. So on the left, we're going to multiply by x plus 2, and on the right, we're going to multiply by x minus 3. and I'm going to distribute. So I'll have 5x plus 10 on the left minus, and then on the right, an x minus 3. And that's all over my common denominator of x plus 2 times x minus 3. Now we can combine those numerators. So we have 5x plus 10 minus x, and then when I subtract a negative 3, it is like adding 3. All over our denominator. So up top, 5x is minus 1 is 4x plus 13. All over x minus 3 times x plus 2. Now I notice that my numerator will not factor. So that expression is simplified. Now we'll just give our domain rule. So in the first expression, we need to exclude 3, because that would make that expression 0, and then a negative 2. So our final answer is 4x plus 13 all over x minus 3 times x plus 2, and x cannot equal 3 or negative 2. Our last problem in this section is number 8, and we're asked to subtract. So our denominators are different, so let's build a common denominator. In our first rational, we need just an x, but in our second one, we need a 7x. So that will be our common denominator, is 7x. So I'm going to change those, and then write what we need to multiply by here. And so our second one, we don't need to do any adjustment to that. So we will have 35 over 7x minus 6 over 7x. So we can just combine those numerators, 35 minus 6 over 7x, which equals 29 over 7x. I just see if I can simplify that, which I can't, so I just give my exclusion rule. So if you have a variable just standing on its own, it doesn't matter what power it's to, but and multiplying, not adding or subtracting, then you need to exclude 0, because putting 0 in for that variable would make your denominator 0.